Hi, I'm Jeff Walker, the creator of the Product Launch Formula, and I wanted to talk about you and your specific situation. Because if you've got an online business and you're looking to take your business to the next level, well, this is a great day to be you. At the risk of sounding hypey, the formula I'm going to show you in this launch workshop, well, it's almost like money in the bank for you. The thing is, I've had an online business for over 20 years, and I've worked with thousands of online business owners. And the thing I've noticed is they all want more prospects coming into their business, in other words, a bigger list, and they want to sell more to those prospects, and they want to sell more to the clients they already have. Because at the end of the day, you're either growing or you're dying. Your list of prospects is either growing or it's stagnant. And your sales, well, they're either growing or they're just limping along. And this is important. Your energy and enthusiasm is either all in or you're having the very lifeblood sucked out of you. I've been on both sides, and I know which side I'd rather be on, and I bet you do as well. So here's the thing. There's nothing like a launch to inject new sales, prospects, and momentum into your business. You can either relaunch an existing product or service, or you can create a new bundle to launch, or you can come up with an entirely new product or service to launch. And I say this from experience. I've been teaching this launch workshop every year since 2005. Of course, it's changed a lot since then. But in that time, I've had almost 1 million people go through this training, and many of them were just like you. They had an online business and they wanted new momentum and a surge of additional sales. Now, in that time, my students have launched or relaunched all kinds of products, services, courses, widgets, books, in almost every market niche in every corner of the world that you can think of. So here's what I invite you to do. As you go through this workshop, I want you to focus on how this applies to your specific situation, because you're in the perfect spot to leverage these strategies. I'll be teaching you the one core strategy that drives the biggest launches. And I'll also be showing you how to do it with the 3 primary types of launches that work best for people who already have an online business. You're almost certainly going to want to use the internal launch. And I know this sounds crazy, but my goal here is for you to generate as much revenue in 1 week as you normally do in a full year. And then the joint venture launch, well, that's how you leverage up in a huge way. But you should also pay attention to the seed launch, because that's a great way to sell a new product and get paid before you actually develop it. And one more thing, because I've got something brand new for this year's launch workshop. Every year I give you the latest strategy for launching your product or service or business, but this year I'm not just going to teach you, I'm actually going to show you. I'm actually going to take you inside a real launch as it's happening so you can see exactly how it's done. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to roll right into the workshop, so get ready to take lots of notes. And be sure to download the PDF guide on this page so you can follow along. I'll be teaching you the core of my product launch formula. This is the formula that's launched and relaunched 1,000 businesses, many of them by people who are just like you. I think you're going to love it. So how do you take what you love to do, your passion, your profession, even your hobby, and turn it into an online business that makes you a great income, creates real value in the world, and gives you the freedom to work when you want, how much you want, and that you can run from anywhere in the world? A business that makes money for you 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. How do you start a business like that? Or if you've already got an online business, how do you grow that business fast? Now, the goal of this workshop is to show you the critical things you need to know to launch a 6-figure or even a 7-figure business online, and do it in a way that gives you the lifestyle that you want and makes a positive impact on other people's lives and lets you do it without being hypey or slimy or scammy. And yes, you really can do it in a way that will make your mom and your friends proud of you. So in this first video, I'm going to focus on the one core strategy that the most successful entrepreneurs use to launch their businesses and products online. And this strategy is going to work for you whether you're just starting out or whether you've got already have an online business. Now, you've probably heard success stories about people making all kinds of money in their online business. And those stories are out there and many of them are true. But I need to warn you, this training is not about get rich quick. And it's not about some trick to get your website to the top of Google or some magic software or some way to get lots of people following you in social media. It's about a real world formula that definitely requires work, but it's been proven over and over in the real world by real people with a huge variety of products and services. Now, I want to emphasize this. What I'm going to show you is not theory. It's been proven over and over again by myself and more importantly, by my thousands of students. Over the last 12 years, my students have done well over $500 million in sales in just about every type of online business you can think of, in hundreds of different markets and niches, and literally all over the world. Lots of times, when you hear about people with online businesses, you hear about all the money they're making, and I have to tell you, it can be pretty awesome. But for me, what's really important comes down to one word: freedom. First, you have true time freedom. The internet doesn't open or close, so you can work when you want. Of course, you still have to put in the work, but the flexibility is absolutely amazing. I get up when I want in the morning, and I work when I want to work. And when you sell products online, especially digital products, you get true time leverage. By this, I mean you can disconnect your income from the amount of time that you work. You can make more money without working more hours. With an online business, you're open for business 24 hours a day, whether you're working or not. You also have location freedom. You can work and even live wherever you want. And your clients, well, they're not limited by location either. I run my multi-million-dollar business out of a small town in the mountains of Colorado. This is my dream hometown. I love what I do, and I still get to have all my crazy outdoor adventures like mountain biking, skiing, hiking, whitewater kayaking. And if I want to take off for an adventure, I can do it. In fact, during the winter, I have an official Ski Friday policy. I take off every Friday to go skiing. And during all of it, my business stays open. And the sales keep coming in, and I still get to have clients from around the world. You also get the freedom of who you work with. You no longer have to work with a grumpy boss or unreasonable clients. When you attract the right clients, your life just gets a lot more enjoyable. Some of my clients have become great friends, and I've also had the honor to hang out with, coach, and even play with some amazing people like Paulo Coelho, Sir Richard Branson, and Tony Robbins. And finally, you get the ultimate freedom, the freedom of purpose. You get to do the work you love, the work you were born to do. For me, my life now is about making the maximum positive impact. I love what I do, I help a lot of people, and I make an incredible income while I do it. So I've got 4 videos in this workshop for you. In this first training video, I'll walk you through how to launch your business or your product. And what I'm going to teach you is the core strategy behind my product launch formula. But before we go any further, I need to warn you about 2 things that could hold you back as you go through this training. Either of these 2 things, they could stop you dead in your tracks. The first is the thought of, I knew that. Oftentimes, we blind ourselves by assuming we already know something or we've already seen it before. Don't do that. I'm sure you've seen people using my launch techniques because I have students using my formula in just about every market you can imagine. But it's one thing to be like an outside observer and try to reverse engineer a process, and it's another thing to get a look behind the scenes and understand what's really going on. The most successful businesses in the industry use my formula, and I'm going to show you how and why it actually works. So the second thing that will hold you back is the thought of, I disagree. Now, it's easy to go there, and I'll admit that some of the things I'm going to teach you, well, they might seem counterintuitive and even strange, but I think it will all start to make sense for you pretty quickly once I show you how it works. And again, this comes from experience. I don't want to scare you off of big numbers, but I've personally run dozens of launches, and I've had 18 launches that did $1 million or more in sales. Okay, I know I've thrown some big numbers at you, but that's not how I started. In fact, it's hard for me to imagine more humble beginnings. I remember like it was yesterday. I looked out the window and I saw my wife Mary drive up. That was strange because it was the middle of the workday, so I knew something was wrong. Mary walked through the door and I could tell she was upset, that she'd been crying. At that time, I was a stay-at-home dad. I was taking care of our 2 small kids, Daniel and Joan. Mary had a job and she was supporting the family. She was the sole breadwinner. There wasn't much money to go around, and we were basically living from paycheck to paycheck. And now Mary stood in front of me crying. She told me she couldn't take it any longer. She was getting up in the dark to go to work, coming home in the dark, working way too many hours, barely seeing the family. She wanted a better life for our family. She wanted to be able to spend more time with our kids. She needed a change, and she asked me to find some way to help support the family. Now, I didn't know what to say. Years earlier, I tried the corporate world, and it didn't work out so well. I was like a round peg in a square hole, and I left my corporate job feeling like a complete failure. I basically quit just before they could fire me. But now my wife was standing in front of me in tears, pleading with me to help support the family in some way. This was one of the lowest moments of my life. I was already a corporate failure, and now I was failing as a father, husband, and a provider. And there was another thing. Mary knew, and in my heart of hearts, I knew that I had more to contribute to the world, that I wasn't fulfilling my potential, that I wasn't destined to be a failure, that success, well, it wasn't something that just happened to other people. Now, at that moment, I made a promise to myself that my life and my family's life was going to change. I didn't know how, but I would find a way. And shortly after that was when I had this idea to start publishing an email newsletter. That was way back in 1996, and the internet was really just getting started. At that time, I'd been studying the stock market very closely for years, so I decided my newsletter would be about investing in the stock market. It was August 30th, 1996, when I sent that first email newsletter. It was a free newsletter, and I sent it to all my friends. Now, of course, back then, not everyone had email. But the funny thing is, nowadays, I often have people ask me about getting started, especially when they have no contacts or following or email list, or they're not a recognized expert. Well, this is what I tell them. When I sent that first newsletter, I had 0 credentials. I had no fancy letters after my name. I wasn't a stockbroker or a registered investment advisor or anything like that. The only credentials I had was that I'd been home taking care of my kids and making peanut butter sandwiches. But there's this magical thing that happens. And this was one of my first critical lessons. When you start publishing, even a free email newsletter, people instantly start to look at you as an expert. It's pretty amazing, but it's true. And as far as having a list, I had 19 emails on my list for that newsletter. And one of them was my wife's email address, and one was my second email address. The thing I've learned since then is that everything and everyone has a start, and it's usually very, very humble. Nowadays, with social media and with everyone connected all the time, it's so much easier to build a following. Anyone can do it. You just have to decide to get started. In any case, soon I was getting subscribers through word of mouth. I couldn't afford a domain name or web hosting, but there was a place that offered a free website. So I figured out how to put up a basic website. I have to laugh at what that site looked like now. I mean, it was really ugly. I mean, nowadays there's amazing tools so anyone can build a good-looking site in minutes. But back then it was like rocket science to me. I wasn't a programmer and I didn't have any tech skills. So in a few months, I had several hundred people on my list. I wasn't making any money yet because it was a free newsletter, but I started to think that maybe I could sell something to my readers. So I came up with a plan for a paid version of my newsletter. This would be my first product. But the big problem was that I didn't know how to sell. I'd never been a salesman. I knew nothing about marketing or sales. I certainly didn't know anything about selling online. I mean, this was 1996 and almost no one was actually selling stuff on the internet yet. And I had another problem. The idea of selling just, well, it really creeped me out. I wanted to treat my subscribers really well. I thought of them as friends. I was scared to ask for the sale. I was scared to ask for the order. I didn't want to seem slimy or act like a used car salesman. But here's the thing, I had to take action. I had promised myself that things were going to change. So that's when I came up with the idea that made all the difference. And I didn't know it at the time, but eventually that idea would completely change the course of online marketing. This was the idea. I decided that before I ever asked for the sale, I would send my readers a sequence of super valuable content. And that content would naturally lead into the sale. And I would turn my launch into an event, sort of the way they do in the movie business. So that's exactly what I did. And then the big day came, and I gathered all the courage I had, and I pushed the send button on my very first launch. Now, it's funny, but back then I had a hard time believing that anyone would actually pay me for something that I created. I mean, I'd been a stay-at-home dad for years. I hadn't gotten a paycheck or made any money in forever. I was sending a free email newsletter from a homemade desk in my basement. But I didn't have to wait too long. I can still remember the moment that first order came in. I literally jumped out of my chair. I jumped so high, it felt like I almost punched a hole in the ceiling. My life changed in that moment. That's what that first sale, that first dollar will do for you. I had just stepped on board the success train. What I know now, and this is important, after helping thousands of entrepreneurs start their online businesses and thousands more quickly grow their businesses, it's the first dollar that's the hardest. And it's also the most important because it puts you in the game. So that first launch ended up at $1,650 in sales. That was huge for me. It was an amazing boost for my family's budget. And I had this thought go through my head, and it's one of the most important thoughts I ever had. I thought to myself, if I just made $1,650, I could do it again, and again, and again, and I might even get better at it. Well, that's exactly what happened. A few months later, I did another launch. I took what I learned the first time, and I made a few changes, and this launch did $6,000 in sales. That was crazy. Then the next one did $8,000 in sales. Then about 18 months later, I did the launch that brought Mary home to be with our kids and to help me in my business. That one did $34,000 in a single week. That was incredible, and it completely changed our family's life. Of course, I couldn't imagine it at the time, but I was just getting started. For example, and this shows just how quickly my thinking changed. A little over a year later, I needed $70,000 for a down payment on a new home. So I did a launch, and it generated $106,000 in sales. And then just a few years later, it was my first $1 million launch. I mean, it's been a crazy, amazing ride. But here's the thing, no matter how big the launches get, the most important launch of my life was that first one. The launch that brought in my first sale, made my first dollar, the launch that did $1,650, because that launch showed me what was possible. That launch gave me the jumpstart that I needed. And really, that's why I'm so passionate about teaching entrepreneurs how to launch, whether they're just starting out or whether they have an existing business and they want to go to the next level. Business is all about momentum. You're either growing or you're dying. And there's no better way to get momentum fast than with a properly executed launch. It's not about luck or hope. It's about having the right formula and putting it to work. So what's the secret sauce? How can I go from 19 subscribers to $106,000 in a week and then to $1 million launches? Well, it's become my life's work. It's called the Product Launch Formula, or PLF for short, and it's completely changed the way stuff is marketed and sold online. I've taught it to thousands of people in my Product Launch Formula coaching program, and the results have been legendary. Now, I know a lot of people get a little freaked out about marketing and sales, just like I did when I first started. Or they might say, I suck at marketing, or I'm the creative one. I'll get someone else to do the marketing. But the reality is this. Marketing is nothing more than clearly and effectively communicating the true value of what you have to offer the world. If you've got a great product or service, then you owe it to yourself, your family, and the entire world to market it effectively. So let's dig into the Product Launch Formula and get you launched. In this first video, we're going to focus on two core pieces of PLF, the sideways sales letter and the mental triggers. So what's a sideways sales letter? Well, back when I started, everyone was using those old style sales letters. You might have seen them. Basically, it's a really long web page. If you printed it out, it might be 10 pages or even longer. There was a headline at the top, and the standard formula used was problem, agitate, solve. The idea was that you grabbed your prospect's attention with a headline, then you defined some kind of problem that they had in their lives. They bought a guitar, but they didn't know how to play songs. Or they didn't have a girlfriend, or their dog wouldn't come when it was called. So you define the problem, then you get them agitated about that problem. You make them feel even worse about their problem. Then you give them the solution. But you don't really give them the solution, you sell them the solution. That's the old style sales letter. And the format actually came out of old school direct mail, and it used to work. In fact, there are times where it will still work. But times change, and nowadays what happens is people just scroll to the bottom of the letter, and then they look at what the price is, and then they decide if they want to read the letter. Those old style sales letters, they're just not that effective anymore, and their effectiveness, well, it just keeps on dropping. In today's world, we're moving more towards transparency and authenticity and creating value before the sale. And by the way, I think that's a good thing. And that's where the Sideways Sales Letter comes in. This is the big innovation that literally changed online marketing. And to a large degree, it leveled the playing field. So instead of thinking of it as a long 10-page sales letter, thinking about taking it and turning it on its side, think of it as a 10-day process, a 10-day launch where you deliver value over that time before you ask for the sale. What you do is you release 3 pieces of content, what we call pre-launch content, or PLC for short. These days, we generally do that with a video. You release the first video, and this first video is all about the journey or the opportunity. It's where you show people they can really have a positive change in their life, that they really can learn to play songs on their guitar, that they can learn to meditate, that they can train their dog, that they can live a more healthy lifestyle, or they can have a better relationship. You show them the opportunity to change their life for the better. And all along the way, you're teaching, you're giving real value, because, and this is important, I believe that showing someone that they can change their life for the better is one of the greatest gifts you can give them. Then a few days later, you release a second video, PLC 2. This is the transformation video. That's where you make the transformation real for them. Again, this is a high-value video with lots of great content. Oftentimes, you'll have case studies in here, and you'll show them how they can really have that transformation. Then a few days later, you release the third video. This one's PLC 3, which is what we call the ownership video. You deliver more great content, and then you show them what it's actually like to have that change in their lives. Now, here's the key. You're delivering great content every step of the way. Now, how do you deliver that value, and how do you know what to put in your pre-launch videos? Well, remember that old problem, agitate, solve, that they use in the old style sales letters? Well, in the Sideways Sales Letter, we turn that on its side, because we actually define a problem at the beginning of the video, of the very first video, and then we give the solution in that video. And then towards the end of the video, we'll define another problem, and then we'll solve that problem in our next video. My friend Lisa Sasevich, she calls this the PSPS, the problem, solution, because each solution has the seeds of the next problem or the next challenge. We keep doing that throughout our pre-launch, and eventually you lead to the final problem, and the solution will be in your fourth video. And that's where your sales video is. That's where you actually ask for the sale. By then, we've gone through this cycle, we've defined either 2 or 3 different problems, and through our pre-launch, we've actually solved those problems for your viewers. We're giving real content. We're creating real value. Now, one important note, your Sideways Sales Letter sequence doesn't have to be video, and you don't have to appear on camera. These days, we tend to use videos because they're just so effective, and shooting a video is easier for most people than writing. But it's totally possible to do this without using video. As you'll see in my next video, I'm going to show you some of the different styles of launches that I teach in the Product Launch Formula Coaching Program, including the seed launch. Now, the seed launch is awesome because it's how you can launch when you have no list and no product. And that's really cool. And often in the seed launch, we're not using videos at all. We just use email or even social media. So the Sideways Sales Letter is pretty awesome. It completely changed the online marketing world, but now I want to add another level for you. It's the mental triggers. This is the deal. There are certain triggers in all of our brains that create enormous influence in the way we make decisions. These mental triggers exist in every one of us, and they've been with us for thousands of years, and they'll be with us for thousands more. No matter who you are or where you live in the world, these mental triggers have a huge impact on our decision making. We all respond to these triggers. Now, in my Product Launch Formula Coaching Program, I go through 20 mental triggers along with the best ways to activate them. But in this video, I'm going to get you started with the first 6 of them. Now, the first mental trigger is community. Community is a very powerful trigger. If we perceive ourselves as being part of a community, then we'll act in accordance with how we think that people in that community are supposed to act. This is a really powerful trigger, and it's important to remember that online communities can be just as powerful as traditional communities. So next is anticipation. This is the idea where we anticipate future events. If you think about how powerful events are, like birthdays, graduations, holidays, you'll notice they have a powerful hold on us. Think about the way TV and movies set up the sequel or the next season for a show. They pull you in and leave you anticipating the next episode. Then there's authority. Authority is a super powerful trigger to use in your launches. When we perceive someone as being an authority, we listen to them, and they are instantly more influential. Here's an example. Almost any type of uniform, like a police officer or a doctor, well, that uniform creates authority. It's very powerful, but there's many ways to establish authority. Reciprocity is another great trigger. That's the idea that if we give something to someone, they're going to feel an obligation to give something back to us in return. If you give a gift to someone, they're going to feel like they want to give a gift back to you. Then there's social proof. This is the idea where if we see a lot of other people doing something, then we're going to be more inclined to give it a try. This is why reviews at Amazon and other places are so powerful. But it's just one way to create social proof. The sixth trigger I have for you today is scarcity. Simply put, if there's less of something, then we want it more. Gold, diamonds, Ferraris, whatever. Just the fact that there's a fewer of something instantly attracts our attention and gets us more interested. These triggers are everywhere in our lives, but I want to talk about how you can use them in your launch and why they make your marketing so irresistible. It starts with your first video of your launch. You give away some great content in that first video. And when you do that, you instantly create authority. You're demonstrating just how much you know, and that's authority. And you're also building reciprocity because you're giving away great content. And as you give out that content, well, people are loving you and they want to give something back to you, whether it's a share or a comment, or ultimately, they might buy from you. As you move through your pre-launch, you're starting to build anticipation. Your people are looking forward to each video, right up until you release your sales video and start taking orders. And with each video, people are leaving comments. And your viewers can see that other people are watching your video and making comments, and that builds social proof. They think, all these other people are watching this, there must be something interesting going on here. Then you actually start to build community. It starts to develop in those comments. People will often start answering each other, and all of a sudden you have some real community developing. That also brings in another trigger that I didn't mention, which is conversation. People love conversation. They would much rather be in a conversation than be listening to a monologue. Any one of those mental triggers is really powerful, but when you layer them on top of each other, that's when the magic really starts to happen in your pre-launch. You're creating a conversation with your market, delivering real value, creating a strong relationship, and then finally asking for the sale. That's the core strategy behind the product launch formula, and that's why it's the single most effective way for making sales, creating an impact, and building a business. Now at this point, the big question is, what does it do for you? How are you going to use this? So if you're watching this, you probably fall into one of four categories. First, you already have an online business. You're already selling stuff. You've already got some traffic to your website. If that's the case, then this is an awesome day to be you, because there's just no other way to get more leverage in your business. You can take an existing offer and relaunch it, add some bonuses, maybe tweak the pricing a bit, and relaunch your product and relaunch your business. This is the absolute fastest way to increase your leverage and get big time results in very little time. The second category is you have some type of business where you might be a practitioner or you have a service-based business. You might be helping people with their wellness, their health, their money, their business, relationships, or something else. In other words, you're working with clients. It could be a nice business, but you don't have time leverage in your business. The only way to increase your income and impact is to work more hours, and that's not a good formula. In this case, what you need to do is create some leverage. Now, what if you had a product that sold for $97 or $297 or even $2,000, and you put together a launch and you sold your products online? You could sell more products without working more hours. Now, how would that change your business? How would that change your life? If you think about it, you already have clients. A bunch of them would probably love to get more from you. More content, more value, more products, and more services. That's where Product Launch Formula can work for you. And I've got lots of students just like you in my Product Launch Formula coaching program. Now, the third category is you're an author or a soon-to-be author, or you're an artist. Whether you have a book or you're creating some type of art, the reality is that the only person who's going to market your book is you. And the best way to get it out there is with a launch. Now, the fourth category is, Jeff, I love it. It sounds amazing, but I don't have a business or a list, or a product or even an idea for one. In other words, you're exactly where I was when I got started. If that's where you're at, then let me tell you, it is absolutely possible to build a real online business. If you look at what I've built when I started from scratch as a stay-at-home dad, and I gradually built up my business, and now I've got thousands of clients, and they've collectively done hundreds of millions of dollars of business, of launches, it just shows where it can go. Even if you're just starting out, just like I was. Now, if you fall into one of those categories, or if you just love this launch process and you want to partner with other people and help them launch their products, well, you're going to love the next video I have for you. It's about the 3 primary types of launches, including the seed launch. That's the one where you can start with no list and no product, and you can basically get paid to create that first product and create that first list. Now, how awesome is that? I'll also cover the JV launch, which is sort of like pouring gasoline on a fire. This is how you leverage other people's lists. In other words, there are other people out there, and they've already put in the hard work to gather a following of people who could be interested in your product. The JV launch is how you get your product in front of those people. A JV launch is more work, but it's also instant leverage. I'm also going to show you the magic of launch stacking. This is really important because it's how you leverage up from one launch to the next. Your results get better, you make a bigger impact, and your business grows as you go from launch to launch. That's how I went from my first launch of $1,650, and my launches kept on growing until I was eventually doing millions of dollars. That's what I mean by launch stacking, and I'll show it to you in my next video. But right now, I want to know a little more about you. What does having a successful online business look like to you? What would it mean to your income and lifestyle? What would it do to your level of freedom in your life? What would it allow you to do? And what would a successful launch mean to you and your family? And what about the people that you help and serve in your business? What would it mean to them? Please scroll down below this video and tell me in the comments section. And of course, if you liked this video and you found it useful, I would love if you clicked the like button and if you shared it with your friends. You know, when I started out, there were a lot of people that were really skeptical. Friends, family, sometimes even people who are close to you will tell you that you can't do this or you shouldn't do it. And there are people who have tried and failed at business or even at an online business because they didn't have the right formula or they didn't stick with it. If you take nothing else from this video, please understand this. The internet is the world's greatest gift for entrepreneurs and people like you and me who are ready to step into their destiny. I've lived this life for 20 years and I've built a life and a lifestyle that I could never have dreamed of. An online business brings the world's markets to you. It lets you connect with really cool people, and you can do it all while you have the most amazing freedom that you can imagine. It lets you build a business that works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It allows you to run your business from anywhere in the world, work when you want, with who you want, and it lets you finally create a leveraged income and lifestyle for you and your family. When you combine the right formula with some hard work, then the sky's the limit. There's no telling how far you can go. You're going to create an amazing life. You're going to take care of your family, and you're going to make a big positive impact on the world. Scroll down and leave a comment for me, and I'll see you in the next video.